Welcome to another edition of... No, wait a minute. No, it's a great text video. Yay. Hey, this should take about 2 hours. Anyway, it should be fun. I mean, it's 13 minutes of great text. Complaining.
So, you know, I'm not as attractive as Rena Webb, but certainly...
yeah, by a long shot.
I've recently discovered Rena Webb's an anti-natalist, stroke ethicist, and, you know, and I've recently converted my account so I can actually see the people I'm sub to's activities, and that's a big mistake. Looking at their activities is a mistake. Clicking on their activities is an even bigger mistake. Okay?
Yeah, right. Well, I'm sure the same could be said for you. So anyway, so he's complaining about Rena Webb because now he finds out she's an anti-natalist. Or at least, not very satisfied with, whatever, the average offering as an explanation for how magnificent life is, even though she is magnificent. Yeah, life got it right with her, though. I gotta admit.
Because, you know, that's just a bad idea, really. So anyway, I might insult for Rena Webb because, quite frankly, I just don't want to see that stupid pish in my activity feed. And when I say stupid pish, I'm referring to a constant fucking sharing and liking, corroboration, strokes, you know, social network based around.
Yeah, whatever. This seems like kind of a silly complaint, actually. You know, I think I might have it listed here. Yeah, I mean, my video, you know, the last video I made, wasn't liked by anybody. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's part of the cult. So that's kind of, you know, that says something right there, doesn't it? It wasn't a very good video. I mean, so what the fuck? And, you know, people, you know, I wouldn't like it either. Because, yeah, the activity on YouTube sucks, and it's just depressing, and, so, but anyway, this whole cult accusation, you just gotta let it go. Because you don't have any friends on the internet, well, that's your fault. You can make friends if you want friends. You can. I don't bother because, yeah, I don't really want friends.
Anti-natalism, because that's what it is. Okay, that's what it is.
Right, it's just a social club, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just so stupid to sit there and take a philosophy that is so stark in terms of what it offers, and you know, say that no, it's not about that. It's about somehow everything else about us is some sort of cliquish thing or something. But you're going to find that with any kind of group of people who have a sensitivity to any subject, right? Who are who understand easily. The first comers are probably going to have a lot in common just because of the fact that they came to the same conclusion independently. And it's the later comers, or the ones you have to work on a while, who are probably going to be have a different metabolism, fundamentally. And so, yeah, they might not be as tight, because they won't have quite as much in terms of common experience. But even this argument doesn't go anywhere, because there's people who are anti-natalists who have had kids. You know.
You know, solace, misery loves company. You know, that's what's going on in this group of people. And
yeah, whatever. So again, you could say that about vegetarians, you know, generally speaking, or you could say about any group, or let's say animal rights advocates. Okay, let's not even say vegetarians. Let's say the real animal rights advocates, because they're losing the war. They have a lot to be depressed about, looking at the world and look at the way animals are treated, and it's a hard fight, and it's sad. And so you're going to say that no, they shouldn't have that in common somehow. It's just stupid. It's stupid. I'm sorry, you're stupid. You're just stupid. You're a bigot. It's what you are. You're just a fucking bigot.
That's what gets them through life.
Yeah, well, again, that's not the point. Getting through life. They're not even saying you should even get through life. They're even saying, well, maybe you can't take it anymore. Get the hell out of here, right? Sure, you know, we understand. So, again, this is just such a pile of crap. This isn't about getting through life. It's about accepting it and doing something about it. two things that, yeah, you just don't want people to do.
Then that's fine. But when they're arguing that this is truth that they're espousing and sharing and agreeing with, when they're intersubjective agreements.
Intersubjective agreements, right. So if you agree the world is round, it's only intersubjective agreement. It's not based on fact. It's just something you all emotionally feel and you're all into it. And it has no real substance or merit in the world. If you agree with a bunch of people that nuclear power plants are too high a risk for too little reward, you're just intersubjectively agreeing. You don't have any right to impose your understanding on anybody else. If they want nuclear power, they should have it. Blah, 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 blah. Bullshit.
All of a sudden become objective truth and fact. And they talk about how they have the right to, sterilize the planet or the poor or...
The poor. Yeah, the poor. Yeah, no, we have a right to tell ignorance, which is always usually associated with poverty, to grow the fuck up. Yeah, that you're going to have to sit there and do a little better, because you're not performing very well. You're making a lot of horror, and you're not making much good stuff. Okay, you're just making a fucking mess is what you're goddamn doing, and we're just not going to pay you to do that anymore. We'd like to tell you not to do that anymore, and we might even punish you for doing it, instead of paying you. Yeah, instead of paying you to be an asshole, yeah, maybe we'll punish you for being an asshole.
Push a big red button and kill everything inferior to themselves.
Oh, inferior again. So you can't make an honest argument, can you? If it was inferior, if it was better than me, I'd still kill it unless it came up with a good story. All right, I'd kill a fucking god if it couldn't give me a better answer. Remember Star Trek episode with the fake god? I don't even understand the whole idea of a fake god, but anyway, yeah, I'd kill the fucker. Okay, if it can't come up with a good story, can't come up with anything, yeah, I'll kill it. I don't care whether it's my better or not. If it can't sit there and explain why, okay, simply some sort of simple explanation, why are Earthlings better than Martians? Explain it to me. The non-existent Martians. Why are Earthlings more necessary than the Martians? I'm sure you haven't put any proposals for in front of Parliament exercising the idea that we should create Martians and implant them on Mars because, God, there's a huge Martian deficit. Sure you haven't done that.
Or what? That's when question marks, no, it's not question marks really, it's when, anybody with a sense of dignity.
Oh, look who's talking, the belching, farting, fat jackass. Yeah, I mean, you have a sense of dignity? Oh, please, there's no low you won't go to crawl out and eke out your stupid ego existence. You're a preposterous fuckwit. You'll eat fucking goddamn anything, you'll snort anything, you'll suck anything for your $50 worth of ego gratification. You dignity-less slob.
And all sorts of virtuous shit should really be questioning these people.
Yeah, right. You haven't even come close to asking a reasonable question. Your questions are, why are you such an evil cult? That's your questions. You don't sit there and in any way do anything to dent the fundamental philosophy except to say something idiotic like, the non-existent can't be harmed. Or, the prevented harm isn't a real virtuous good because it doesn't exist. Or some other kind of convoluted nonsense. So yeah, way to go.
And it's quite funny because a lot of the times you'll start off with something like, people tell you that life is good and that it is wrong, life is bad. And it's like, oh, a minute, people are saying life is good and you disagree. So therefore, the opposite is true?
Well, it's often the case that something either is performing to the standard or it's not performing to the standard. It's like a car's efficiency. It either is minimally efficient or it's not minimally efficient. It's like you either have a job that pays enough money to pay your bills and you can live on it, or you don't. Something like that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of subjects in the world where there's just basically a cliff. You're either not falling over the edge of the cliff, or you're on the plateau, or you're falling. I mean, those are the only two choices. You're either on the plateau, or you're in the cellar. It's like only that's it. That's all there are. There's just attic and cellar. There's no floor in the middle.
No, wait. Surely the issue is people trying to impose their values on a concept when it's a subjective value.
Well, you can keep saying that you can just keep doing that forever. We've made our arguments, okay? I mean, I can't help you. If you don't think reality is real, that's your problem. I just don't have a cure for you, okay? You're too stupid. If you don't think it's an absolute fact that, a million zillion mice in a cage floating through space, perpetually suffocating to death, is a worse circumstance than a million mice eating cheese going squeak squeak, then you're too fucking stupid. Okay? So you can keep pretending that this is just some sort of emotional thing that we're doing when it comes to value equations and understanding what means something, but that's your prerogative, okay? In my opinion, it's more certain than anything else I believe in. More certain than the world is round, or the moon is whatever, gray and dusty, are even more valuable than my own welfare in any way. I'll sign up for getting run over by a steamroller millions of times, forever, in perpetuity. I would risk an eternal hell based on my confidence that this planet is as described. It's a replicating molecule. We evolved. There's no super sauce story here. And it's just a machine, okay, that's messing with, it's just playing with sentient life. It's a mad scientist run amok. And that's my certain understanding of the mechanism. And until you provide me with some evidence that that isn't the truth of the circumstance, you've got nothing. But to call that some sort of subjective understanding is stupid. It's the understanding that every single scientific fact observed points to. Every single fact points to it. And not any facts point to your hopeful, no, it isn't just a mechanism that replicates a molecule. No, there's no fact that points to that. No fact.
And they're trying to claim it's an objective value like this, but surely that's the issue. So surely you shouldn't be doing the polar opposite value, but the exact same psychology, i.e. your value's right, life is bad. Surely the entire scope of the universe, the complexity of the universe...
A complexity of the universe. Well, there you're in big trouble with that word alone. All the complexity in the universe is on this planet. The complexity happens when you have a replicating molecule. That's what has complexity. The universe is fucking elementarily simple. The universe is a mechanism that is boring. It's a real boring TV show. You put the universe on TV, no one's going to watch it after about 5 minutes, because it doesn't do anything all that fucking interesting. Okay? It's just stuff swirling around other shit. Okay, little blow-ups, little this, little that. But there's nothing terribly complex about 100 elements mixing together, swirling about, and then cooling off and falling apart and blowing up. And that's what the universe does. And it's going to do it here eventually, too, which makes your whole sob story about, oh, ain't it awful, just all that much more ridiculous. You're not going anywhere with this experiment. You're going to die, your prodigy is going to die, and some of them are going to die really, really badly. And that's all you're trying to impose, is bad deaths. Fuck you. You're an idiot.
Such that, making a 50-50 one or the other value judgment is woefully inadequate. But
I don't even know what that means. A 50-50 value judgment. What does that even refer to? Like somehow 50% of the evidence points to something else or something? Like somehow this isn't decidable? No, it's way past decidable. Every one of these truths that have fallen on the human race have fallen on the human race like 1,000 years later than they should have, because you myopic dimwits can't get with the program. I mean, Darwin was, 1,500 years anyway, late, showing up to the party.
And that life can be good and can be bad. And also, what does good mean? What does bad mean?
Yeah, well, we've already gone through all that stuff, okay? Your idiotic notion that you can actually accomplish or do something that somebody would give a fuck about, or somebody would be able to impose cancer on a 6-year-old poor. Is there anything you've done in your life, one day in your life, that is so valuable that you would impose chemotherapy for the day on a 6-year-old? No, of course there isn't. Okay, and I'm saying there isn't anything of value in a whole year of your life for one day of their suffering. I'm saying you can't make up for one of the worst case scenario human on this planet. Okay? You have no hope of making up 1 hour of their misery, in my opinion, with your entire lifespan of good. None of it has any value. It's just satisfying you. It's taking you out of your cellar. Okay? Walking out of the cellar doesn't get the other people in the cellar out of the cellar, shithead. That's the whole problem with your value equation. You don't seem to understand that when you're happy, you're not creating something of any meaning or substance. You're just undoing your negative condition. You're just migrating yourself from a negative circumstance to a positive circumstance, but it has no value to compensate for somebody else's circumstance. You're playing a zero-sum game. You have no extra change that can buy them out of their cellar. You moron. But these arguments you just ignore. Ignore. You jump over them, you sideswipe them, you find any way you can to get around the truth. And that's what makes you just such a despicable character. You're a despicable character. Despicable.
Aren't these primitive words that parents use to control their children? Be good, be bad, but not good.
Control their children. What a horrible thing to do, to say to your kid, don't be an asshole. Oh my God. The horror.
For an explanation as to the reasoning behind these things. And not have an argumentation or a discussion about why some specific thing is good. Or
you can't have the discussion. You've made that clear. You can't even watch the videos, you pussy. You can't have the discussion. You evade the discussion. You pretend that the prevention isn't a good. You prevent because the prevented event never happened. So therefore it's a non-existent event. Yeah, sorry. You can't prevent harm. No, that's impossible.
Is bad. Or how it can be good and bad simultaneously. Even from the one subject doing the valuation.
Well, I'm sorry. Again, you can keep playing that game as long as you want, but it doesn't even wash with your own ideology. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, you would certainly play caretaker to some mammal and say the mammal is better off never to have been than to be tortured and used as somebody's dinner. So you've already made value equations for the welfare of other creatures. So exactly what's the distinction? Oh, that's right, there is no distinction. We're just mammals, Great Text, newsflash. The fact that people have a brain doesn't mean they use it very well, and I can certainly discount or almost even ignore any kind of crap that comes out of it. If they say, I believe in God, I should respect that? No, I don't have to have any respect whatsoever for that nonsense. None. Zero. I can declare them what they are. Broken idiots.
Alone the trillions of subjects evaluating something and deciding whether they like it or not, the one subjective being can simultaneously possess good and bad value for any given thing. Well,
that's really not the subject, right? We're not. So you can't even get that part of the subject right. It's not about your declarations of value. It's about the value intrinsic in the sentient welfare, the value that's created by your state of being. Now, you could be sitting there boiling in oil, and you could raise your hand and say, I'm doing okay, I'm doing okay. But no, objectively, it could be understood that no one would want to be in your circumstance. No one would be crazy enough to say, yes, throw me in the oil with the asshole who's saying he's doing okay. No, they'd all just say, no, I'll do without the old boiling my flesh off thing. So, fuck you again. This is just stupid.
Pain. Sometimes pain is good. Sometimes pain.
Oh, we've been over this one before. This really isn't about somebody who... Sometimes pain is good. No, it's never, in and of itself, a good thing. All right? Or it's not pain. Pain is understood to be an unpleasant sensation. Now, you want to change the definition of pain to pleasurable sensations? Well, go ahead. Or you want to change the definition of an unpleasant sensation in the context of it will make me better in the future? Well, that's a different context. That's a value equation. That isn't a value kernel. So again, you just can't get this conversation right at all. You just can't get the idea that there's a thing called the value, and then there's the thing called the equation. And you saying that some equations work out where you can put some pain, a little bit of pain in, you get a lot of gain out because you prevent a lot of pain. Well, duh. No one's disagreeing with that, jackass. What we're disagreeing with, though, is your conversion of the word pain into a meaningless word, or suffering into a meaningless word, because occasionally it works out that a little bit of suffering is a good thing. And so now you're basically trying to say that all suffering is good, which is really, really stupid.
It's bad. You know, pain has beneficial uses.
Whatever.
And it has detrimental effects simultaneously.
Not simultaneously. Not really. Can that ring true to anybody on planet Earth? No, it can't. Sorry.
So, you know, I mean, what I'm arguing against is simplicity here.
Well, I'm sorry. It is simple. Okay, yeah, there's a quality to existence, and if you're in a negative state, it's just the negative state, that's what it is. And it shouldn't be perpetuated, and it shouldn't be made another one just because you're attached to it. If something's dirty and stinking and rotten, you don't make more of it. You say, fuck that. Enough of the dirty, stinking, rotten stuff. Let's not make any more of that.
And what I face in return is mostly just simplicity.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, why do you have to complicate things? Why do you have to muddy the waters? And I argue the water's already muddy. I'm just pointing out the amount of mud in it. And you guys are like, no, we have to be...
No, you guys isn't going to work for me, okay? You keep playing these games. Every single one of you pussies who argues antinatalism doesn't have the balls to name names. Except when you're picking on somebody who's, you know, not very articulate. Well, then you'll name names, and then you'll make a big, huge scene. All right? But in the rest of the argument, you just keep using this ambiguous shield of ambiguity. And it's just a fucking wimpy cowardice move. Why don't you name names? Why don't you quote quotes, you pussy?
Certain about this? There has to be no doubt. It has to be objective truth that we're discussing, or not discussing, sorry, that we're spreading.
Now, what's the objective? Again, this is a thing where there's a welfare at stake. All right, and you're saying, like, say in a discussion about whether we should have genetically modified food or whether we should have nuclear power. Or let's say we get to the next stage of nuclear power. We have some new mechanism that creates a plasma, and it could melt to the core of the Earth, or it could do something really wacky. We have to have an absolute certain truth about what the risk is before we can make a decision. Somebody has to win the argument decisively without a single dissenter. Or we can't, or we'll just go ahead and go with it. So we'll just go ahead with it, unless the people opposed to it can absolutely convince every single moron on planet Earth. If they can't convince every single moron on planet Earth that they're going to melt the plasma is going to go to the core of the Earth and all the lava is going to come out and it's going to melt everybody's skin off, unless they can prove that to every single human, we can't stop them. Unless we can do that. So that's unless you can prove global warming to every single moron on Earth, you can't stop it. You can't press the green button on the carbon catcher machine. So we make a machine that can catch carbon. And so no, we can't press the green button though until we convince every single human that's the truth. No, I'm sorry, that's not how the reality works. Newsflash, Wubby.
You know, it has to be objective truth, because if everybody agrees that it's the truth, then everybody has to believe it. You know, and if nobody can argue against it, then they have to accept it. And the thing is, arguing against it is ridiculous, because you're just arguing against somebody's values. You know, value judgments are subjective.
Well, again, you can say that forever, and it's just nonsense. I think it's just nonsense. So you want to say it's not nonsense, fine. I'm going to just keep making these preposterous illustrations of how it's absolutely nonsense to say we don't objectively know, absolutely, without any doubt, with no uncertainty, beyond all reasonable doubt, beyond all reasonable counter-argument, that it's, there's different states of being that are preferable, that it's not a good idea to, slowly boil a human being to death versus leaving this, comfy couch. That those two choices, if it's just you get the same 50 cents for hitting either button, that the right thing to do is hit the not to boil the human being to death button. It's an absolute truth that it's better to hit the don't boil the human being to death button. You don't think so? You think that's just some sort of subjective opinion, some emotional opinion. It's not a rational, logical opinion, completely, decisively owned by every piece of evidence. No, I think the opposite is quite true.
Yeah. A lot of people may not value my existence, but I wouldn't want to live my life. But I want to live it, and that's why I'm still here. Just like you're still here.
Well, that's not the subject. Again, the subject is whether you have a right to make some new victim because you think you're really cool. That's the fucking subject we're talking about. All right? The subject is procreation. Procreation. That's right. I'm an anti-creationist.
Because you want to live yours. Just like a cat wants to live its life, that's why it's still there.
It's not why it's still there, okay? It lives because it doesn't know anything about what suicide is or any of that shit, and it doesn't know the moral implications of its own behavior. It can't even get depressed at the fact that it's tortured hundreds or thousands of animals in its life. So it's kind of just stupid for you to make that kind of analogy, because it has no clue what kind of mess it's made.
It values its existence. You value yours, I value mine. And
No, I value my welfare, and I value my right to never be exposed to this slop again. To never wake up on planet Earth and have to arrive at this conclusion in this psychology. So if this psychology shows up again, it's going to be really pissed off that it's here again.
Subjective values based upon my existence override your values about mine. Okay? And that's how the subjectivity of it works.
Well, whatever. Again, if you were making decisions about your own welfare, we don't have an argument. But you're not. We're talking about a third party who you're going to exploit for your gratification. You're a fucking rapist, fatty.
You bring up subjectivity and people are like, oh, so you're saying that your value about a kitten overrides whether the kitten should live or die. You think the kitten's cute, that's why it should live. No, wait a minute, it's subjectivity. The kitten's a subject, so it's up to it whether it wants to live or not.
Well, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Again, I mean, obviously none of these animals can understand the equation of the nuclear power plant and whether we should press the button or not press the button. They can't make a decision about whether they procreate or not because they don't understand the context of the circumstance. So again, you're just going back to the default. Let the DNA knows best. What does the DNA say? Listen to the DNA. Yeah, fuck you. No, I think my brain's a little more complicated. a little more sophisticated, a little more knowledgeable, a little more educated than a fucking DNA molecule.
And, but introducing this more objective way of looking at value and looking at life is problematic for antinatalists and ethicists because it
whatever, a more objective way. Your way of looking at it isn't more objective. It's quite obviously you've destroyed all the value of logic and reason. You say those things don't exist. You say those things are somehow subjectively bigoted or biased or retarded, and it's just a lie.
Increases the complexity of the argumentation and rhetoric they require to spread their message. And as such, any kind of attempt to introduce complexity into it is rejected.
What complexity? Again, what's the complexity? I don't understand. The complexity is what? What? Oh, that's right. There is no complexity. Sorry.
It's simply pleasure is good, pain is bad. Whilst simultaneously, taking on this kind of epistemology, and then saying, "Oh, everybody who isn't us is a hedonist."
No, they're retarded. They're stupid. Okay, what they are is a psychology. They're the one doing the subjective thing. They're living their life entirely on a subjective basis. They subjectively like the color blue. They root for the blue team in the fight against the red team, and they think it all fucking matters because they're all emotionally and ego invested in it, and they're living vicariously through it. They're psychologies, Grey Tex. All right? There's a difference between talking about people's psychology and then talking about their biology. We're saying that biologically this is the mechanism. It's a control mechanism. A DNA molecule came up with it. All right? It makes things attractive and repulsive in our brains. Projections of value. We chase the shit. It projects the value into our head on. Okay? But the mechanism it's using, the whips and the carrots, they're creating real value when they're manifested in our brain. And those whips and carrots can be added up, and you can do the math and figure out you're running a huge deficit. And so you should turn the machine off because it's not making anything of real value, and it's consuming a hell of a lot of help me, kill me, kill me.
It's like, well, wait a minute, you've just taken on a hedonist viewpoint. Pleasure is good, pain is bad. That's a hedonistic viewpoint.
It really isn't. Go look hedonistic. Type it into Google, hit image search, and you're not going to find a single anguish picture in the entire index of images. You won't find a single person in fire. You won't find a single pain image. All you'll find is people chasing girls in their underwear. All right? So quit pretending hedonism has something to do with valuing suffering, because it doesn't have anything to do with that traditionally. So you're just lying again. You're pretending you can use this gluttony word and impose it on something and say it means something. It doesn't mean anything. The word is irrelevant to this conversation. You're not a hedonist when you're looking for a fail-safe solution and when you're risk-averse. Being risk-averse is not hedonism, retard.
When people are coming to you and saying, well, not all pleasure is good. The presence of pleasure isn't necessarily good. If we're looking at somebody...
It's always in and of itself good to take something from a suffering state to a negative state to a positive state. Pleasure in and of itself is always a good, all right, and suffering is always a bad. The problem is the good of pleasure is derived by eliminating a negative. It isn't derived as a pure positive. It's only taking somebody from a negative number to a less negative number. It isn't creating something of real value that can be used to compensate for somebody else's pain. So therefore, the rapist's comfort in accomplishing its rape does not justify the imposition of the suffering he imposes. It's not that hard to understand.
raping a corpse or something ridiculous, because I like to bring up ridiculous examples. Somebody raping a corpse, there's no pain involved, there's no pain present, so, and there's only the pleasure.
Yeah, well, the only pain that would be present is in the people who are imagining you having the right to rape their corpse. So there is some pain present in the sense that somebody might say, I wouldn't want the indignity of having my corpse raped, and just imagining my poor corpse being raped by that sick motherfucking disgusting pile of shit. Even though I'm dead, yeah, I still don't want my corpse raped. So there is some suffering involved in the sense that people might find it very disquieting to perceive the indignity. But obviously the worms eating you is pretty indignant too, so there's lots of indignity to dying. So I'd call hypocrisy, and I say, yes, go ahead, let the crazies fuck the dead people. But it doesn't really matter. It's sort of irrelevant.
Of the rapist present, so therefore that must be a good act, according to David Benatar. It's not necessarily the case. Not all pleasure is good. The pleasure of a rapist isn't necessarily good.
Well, if he's raping the dead, it probably is just pretty much a pretty sure thing that it's a good value equation and that we're just a little squeamish. But who cares? It doesn't really matter.
Or do you think about these things? Not specifically corpse rape, but, just try and think beyond the very cheapness of your rhetoric.
Yeah, well, you're the one who can't get beyond just simple ones. We give you a million thought experiments, you answer none of them. Again, explain to me, how are the missing Martians, the missing Venetians, the missing Moonikins, the missing Mercuryites, how in some way is the universe diminished by their non-existence? We know that if they did exist, they'd just create mess. They'd just make more mess than they'd ever clean up. Okay, we'd end up being their servants or something, or they'd have all kinds of complexes, and it would just be a terribly negative value equation in the end. And that's why they're not missed, because they just make a mess. And you goddamn know it. And that's all we're doing here, is making a mess.
Rather than just looking for a way of framing your opinions and sentiments about existence in a lingo context that seems watertight to you or convincing to you. It's not convincing to me when somebody says pleasure is good, pain is bad. Right. Oh, right, okay. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Yeah, whatever. So he's turning into some sort of Animal Farm thing. So again, this is how they understand the concept of suffering, is they make it ambiguous, like somehow we just don't know that it's terribly, awfully nasty to die of ALS, or to be like that French woman and have brain tumors, and it's like somehow this stuff doesn't happen. The AIDS doesn't really a bad thing. It's, people learn to live with it, and it's okay. It's something to get over. They're just trivializing the suffering and pretending that it isn't imposed quite decisively on a whole class of people who pay the price for the existence, and the people who sit on their fat chairs and their fat life and talk about how suffering is trivial. Fuck you.
It's simplistic bullshit. People using baby words to try and describe the universe. Somebody's trying to describe all of life in 4 premises and a flawed conclusion.
Right, 4 premises: consumption, reproduction, for the sake of reproduction, cannibalism, on an island planet, they're all eating each other, not nice, and addiction. They're all psychology. It's all projection of value. They're chasing an illusion, okay, an ego gratification. The thing itself doesn't have any value. It's just their perception that it has value. And that's why they chase it. Yeah, those are the premises. And the conclusion is, ooh, those 4 things suck. And until we come up with a 5th thing that means something, this game is stupid.
People trying to describe all of existence with 4 mantras: cannibalism, consumption, reproduction, addiction. does that truly explain your life? Because it doesn't explain mine.
Okay. Well, you can say it doesn't, but I think the addiction thing pretty much says it for you, fella. You know, so you pretend otherwise, but no, I think you're outed. And your cannibalism sort of revealed in the fact that you are sitting on the lives that will be horribly, horribly deprivated. You know, lives tragically ended in all kinds of horrible ways, and experienced in a decisively negative balance sheet. And you're just walking on that. You're just stomping in their face, like all the little moany faces are what your roads are made out of. And as you walk down the street, you're just putting your boot heel into their moaning faces. There's a scene like that in some sort of Robin Williams movie, you know, Heaven or something, or Go In There, and there was some scene like that with a bunch of people, and they had to step on their faces and shit. Yeah, that's what you do in your existence, you cannibalizing fucker. Yeah, so there you go.
I mean, those things are present in life. I'm not denying that.
Yes, you are.
For you to reduce all life to that, that's indicative of your flaw.
Well, again, you can keep mocking it and complaining about it, but what are you adding to the story? Nothing. Love, fluffy cloud. You're just going to talk about your subjective, emotional projections of value. You're not going to talk about a rational or logically discernible value. You're just going to talk about some personal addiction. You're attached to it. You like it. You don't do it for any good reason, though. What's your good reason for liking the game? Oh, that's right, because you're addicted to it. Duh, asshole.
Of psychology. Not indicative of your cutting insight into existence. Okay, all you do is cut away everything else in life, the other 99% of what goes on.
Oh, whatever. I don't think that's even close to reality. I think you're the one not acknowledging the reality, which is mediocrity and horror, and totally obsessing about, well, you know, when I was 10 years old, Grandma shoved a cupcake up my ass and it gave me a boner. Or, well, whatever your favorite life experience is.
In your attempts to reduce it down to some very simplistic four-word mantra that you can repeat to yourself and your intersubjective colleagues in the matter.
Yeah, well, whatever. Again, you can keep complaining about the 4 words, but they're descriptive words. They have a story. You want to pretend they don't, and that's your business. I can't. What am I going to do? You're not a scientific type, I guess. You're just not the scientific type, and you want to pretend there's rainbows and unicorns. Okay, fine. And love, whatever. One of your gooey words.
And hence form some kind of huddling round some kind of campfire of fucking misery.
Well, that's not the point anyway. Even if we're all miserable skeleton monsters, the point is we're making a frickin' logical, rational argument, and you're making a mushy, subjective, girly argument.
Loving company. And forever you will dwell in this group of fucking depressed people unless you find a way out of it.
Yeah, whatever. So is this the rhetoric you'd use in defense of, genetically altered grains or fusion-powered super virtual phantasmagorical life? That you'd use this kind of, you people on the other side are just intersubjecting and, you need to get over yourselves and quit being depressives. Technology's great. This will work out fine. No worries. Shall I call the nuclear power plant intersubjective phantasmagorical super plant? Yeah. And you'll just call everybody else a depressive. All the naysayers are just depressives. You could paint the nuclear power plant purple and put little green sequins on it. It'll be spectacular. And that's all that matters. Don't make a real argument. Just make the argument from you're depressing. Oh, fuck you. You're ugly and fat.
People on this website have been offering you breadcrumbs and lead you away from it for years. So, yeah, that's about that. What I think about the stereotype of the average antinatalist stroke echolist is a disaffected, middle class, beta male.
Yeah, right. And what are you? You know, a data male? No. Theta? No. Gata? Yeah, I could go down. Sooner or later I'll get to poo male. That's what you are. P.
With guilt trips about their status in life.
Alright, so whatever. A bunch of psychoanalysis. Yeah, cool. So do that too. So next time you want to have an argument with the Republicans, just psychoanalyze them. Don't have a real argument about economics or anything real. Just sit there and play some sort of psychology.
You know, I mean, that's what I think about the average stereotype of the average antinatalist stroke echolist that I've encountered, at least. And of course, there are exceptions to that.
Yeah, whatever. We're rubber. You're fat glue.
But certainly, there's a great deal of middle-class bullshit, a great deal of ennui, and a great deal of guilt.
Yeah, whatever. You know, again, you're a vegetarian for like happy reasons or something. So yeah, that's your prerogative. I'm an animal rights advocate. Yeah, it's a depressing subject. This is just the way it works out, okay? The protecting the things from getting harmed, yeah, it's not a lottery ticket. You don't get to win $1 billion. You don't get to do any of that fun stuff. You're just preventing harm, which isn't too satisfying. All right? It really isn't. It's not like winning a great victory when you're just defeating absolute shit. That just kind of sucks. And that's what this job is. Janitor isn't a great job. Janitor is kind